AI, as we have just heard, has vast potential, but its development, we've talked about it, must be ethical and contribute positively to our world. With AI centralizing information and decision-making, how do we ensure we still celebrate and protect the diversity of thought, of opinion, of creativity? How can technology champion diversity? For a fascinating discussion, I would like to, before we invite our panelists on stage, I'd like you to maybe hear this very special message from a leading political scientist here in France. She's called Asma Mhalla, and she was not able to physically join us here today, but she's got this message for you. Let's take a look.
AI is not a perspective to come, it's a family-rooted reality. AI operating systems are everywhere. They are equivalent to what electricity was in its time. Everywhere, unavoidable, redefining new production conception, education, information, and democratic processes. So, unity without uniformity. To achieve this, AI tools, if they are well used, could enhance, indeed, diversity. This involves that AI systems are inclusive by design. AI can indeed be a tool for cross-cultural dialogues, a fair access to information. It also can be used to solve our shared global challenges, such as climate change, for example. It can also enhance civic engagement and make some diverse voices be heard. But in the same time, AI tools raise many significant concerns. Biases and discrimination, of course, reinforcement of some harmful stereotypes. AI technologies can badly impact women, especially in states, nations, and contexts where technological surveillance and privacy violations are the rule. At last, we have to keep in mind that women are often in lower paid and precarious jobs, so they can be automatically excluded from new job opportunities, reskilling and upskilling programs. And actually, there are not so many women in AI development teams. So how this concern can be addressed? Of course, we can audit the systems and implement bias detection solutions, mitigation programs. We can ensure inclusive, of course, data collection to get fair datasets to train AI algorithms. We can also measure impact with some gender-specific metrics to assess the impacts, good or bad, by the way, of those AI technologies. Policymakers play, of course, a super important role in regulation to ensure that AI is well deployed. But most of all, we are altogether responsible of what's going on around this so-called AI revolution. We all play a role in the public engagement and the global awareness around these issues. And I am sure that you're going to perfectly do this and do your part of the job during this great panel.
Well, what a great message. You need to own the space and take ownership of AI. In essence, that was the message of Asma Mhalla. It's now time to welcome our panelists for a discussion on how tech and AI can champion diversity. Please welcome John Eland, Alban Liger-Belair, Ashwak Al-Shatri, Sasha Rubel, and Claudine Schmuck as moderator. Please give them a warm welcome.
Hello, everybody. So we had this excellent introduction from Asma Mhalla on this key topic, because indeed AI is a challenge to all of us. And the fact of the matter is that we all have to understand what it implies and how we should or could involve ourselves in all this subject. And to deal with this topic, we have the privilege of welcoming on board for this session a very important panel of people, decision makers, who will share with us their insights on this topic. So, which you have been able to see the list of just a second ago. I'm going to turn to you first, Alban. After 20 years at a global technology leader, where you launched and led the Innovation Center in France, you joined KPMG, where you now manage the innovation department. At KPMG, you have recognized the importance of AI in advance because it has enabled you to rank first for quality in AI advice and implementation according to US 2024 source study. So you have already moved actually to the next step. You're going fast, developing prospective work on AI expansion in the future. Can you share with us some of your key observations on this topic?
Thanks, Claudine. Great to be here with you. Thanks very much for the invitation. So yes, at KPMG, technologies are crucial to the delivery of our businesses. And we're a purpose-driven company in France. And as a purpose-driven company, we are committed to use AI technologies to empower our people. We are committed to enhance and implement an inclusive approach of AI with equally considering women and men in the way we implement AI. We are convinced that AI technologies must contribute to build a positive future and a meaningful future, more especially for human beings. And this is really at the heart of the work that we've been doing, which is called Cyber Economy for Better, with an interrogation point, and that we will release in early January. And what we're observing is that we are a crossroad. We are really trying to outline in this work both the opportunities and challenges we are facing with these amazing technologies that are being adopted at pace. Two trends I wanted to briefly share with you that coming out of this work. First of all is intelligence as a friend, as we see technology being more and more part of our human being more and more human, let's say, and supporting us in our day-to-day life. Second trend I wanted to share is what we call the new Leonards, as in reference to Leonardo da Vinci. We see emerging new types of talents, and those are critical talents that we need because they are embracing fully AI, plus develop a strong intuition and what we called mad skills to address the complexity of the world we're in. So those are the two main trends I wanted to share. And last but not least, we also see the need to build a new narrative around AI. And here, women has got a key role to play. Most of our, let's say, science, most of our narrative has been sort of led by science fictions or anxious stories around technology dominating the world. And we feel the need to bring out a new story and then invite you all around here to help us writing that new story, especially women, because there we've got a big opportunity to change the story and make technology be part of supporting human being instead of dominating the world.
Yeah, a key challenge that you've well spelled out. Thanks a lot, Alban. Now, Sasha, I'm turning to you. You have led UNESCO's work on AI and digital innovations for over 12 years, actually. And you've been a representative in a wide range of governmental organizations, from the EU to the G7 to the OECD or the African Union, among others. You also have received the Public Diplomacy Innovation Prize from the White House under President Obama, and last but not least, undertook a PhD on responsible AI and the social impact of new technology. So you're very knowledgeable about all these topics, and you have a long time experience about what it involves, overall. Can you share with us your insights on how AI technologies can impact DEI and more specifically gender equality?
Sure, so very happy to be following Asma's introduction, and I'd just like to maybe share very briefly the lay of the land and then specifically how AI can help with DEI. So right now, worldwide, women make up only around 26% of data and AI professionals. Women from G20 countries make up really only 7% of ICT patents, and they only get around 10% of venture capital funding for the startups that they would like to found. There are two ongoing paradoxes that exist. One is what we call the ICT paradox, which is, including in France, there are lots of women that are studying ICTs, but that percentage actually doesn't get translated into the profession. So many women studying ICTs, not so many women entering the tech field. But that's compounded by another paradox, which is called the gender ICT paradox, where we see that actually countries where gender equality maybe isn't as advanced as in other parts of the world actually have higher percentages of women entering the ICT workforce. So as a statistic, in the UAE, the amount of women in the ICT sector is 58%. In Belgium, it's 6%. That's very different in terms of looking at what needs to happen to make sure that women are not only studying STEM, but also continuing their career in that field. And at AWS, we have several initiatives, and I'm happy to follow what Stacy said, that are trying to address what we see as 3 key barriers. One is skills, the other is support to women-led startups, and the third is the question of mentorship. So in skills alone, what we're looking at is making sure that underrepresented groups, and I would say it's not just about gender equality. We were talking right before the panel, talking about the fact that actually fundamentally diversity drives better innovation, and that diversity means a diversity of perspectives. So it's not just about gender equality.
Right.
And this is one of the things that we see in the ways in which DEI can advance AI that I'm happy to come back to in the second round.
Well, thanks a lot, Sasha, for this presentation and laying out of the land. Ashwak, I'm turning to you. So as I was stressing at the very beginning, we have an awesome panel today. So Ashwak actually has an exceptional experience. You come from Saudi Arabia, and you held a groundbreaking role there, managing the government, Saudi Arabian government account, spearheading strategic initiatives and fostering innovation in digital realm. So it's kind of amazing for Saudi Arabia, right? So as the managing director and publicist, Sapient, can you tell us how you view the technological race towards the exploitation of AI? And we tend to look a lot at its benefits and sometimes forgetting its dangers. So how do you ensure that AI development is not just a checkbot, but a true means of fostering the human abilities and creativity? Tough question.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you very much for your invitation. It's absolutely my great pleasure to be part of such amazing community. Well, for almost a decade, AI and machine learning was the bedrock of innovation. And now it's becoming the new era of forcing and empowering creativity across several sectors. We are witnessing the birth of new specialized languages and tools that are trying to unlock solutions for a problem previously unsolved. But we need to maintain security and privacy for the data by enabling the right framework agreement with our clients. How we usually get the best advantage out of this tool? First, which is the most important thing, AI is here to augment our capabilities and creativities, not to replace it. So instead of letting AI do, I would say, the automated creativity, we can use AI to do the repetitive tasks like inspections, automations, data analytics, auditing, and so on. So we can free up those specialized and professional people to do something more advanced and creative. Secondly, we need to put in our consideration the ethical AI development. I always highlight this point. AI, unfortunately, can easily enable bias and reinforce stereotypes. So developers should be on the top of all the process, making sure to implement the right ethics in using those data, feeding those models. Finally, we cannot negligate the human judgments. So definitely AI can bring amazing and insightful information, but the final decision should be between a human hand, especially if there is a sort of feelings, emotions, brand identity, data classification, all the situations, if it's involved in any of the cases, the decision should be made by a human.
Okay, so human at last has to make sure that things are going into the right direction.
Absolutely.
That has to be secure, and that's not easy. Perhaps we'll have to discuss about that later. Now, John, you are the CEO of Stack Infrastructure, which you joined in April 2022 to oversee the company's expansion across the EMEA's region. Sorry, you champion. Really, you do, and I can say that because we talked before, we talked last year, and we've been in discussion about that for quite some time right now. You really champion sustainability and diversity in your company. And your focus on building infrastructure that enables sustainable AI innovations. So how does it take place, and what are your priorities right now?
Yeah, I guess the key message is without AI, and I call AI the fun stuff, and the technology is the fun stuff, and everything that everybody in the room will do on their phones day to day as they interact is the fun stuff. None of that can exist without the data center. And so we need to build and deploy that data center infrastructure. AI is supersizing growth, and that means we have to supersize the infrastructure as well. But we need to do that sustainably. There are ways to do that through design innovation. Heat reuse is one, for example, that we used in Oslo. We heat more than 5,000 homes with excess heat from the data center. Rainwater harvesting, biodiversity. We have stack bees, our little colonies of bees in Milan and in Oslo. I think we're the only honey producers in Oslo.
Wow.
The bees can survive in cold temperatures. But it's driving that kind of innovative thought around sustainability. Mm-hmm. But also sustainability can be socioeconomic, not just environmental. Mm-hmm. So a huge focus for us is social impact, community engagement, and making sure that as we're building out these data centers, and we need more and more of these, the technology's changing, the densities are changing, the engineering requirements are changing. Mm-hmm. And as such, we need an educated, available workforce to be able to operate these. And this is where we have the skills gap. So we're driving growth through our use of technology, but we don't necessarily drive the production line of the people required to operate these as we move forward. So that's where we're particularly focused at the moment in trying to drive this into communities.
Right, it's a real challenge for you, and that's the point that Sasha was talking about, the fact that we have an issue with the pipeline, right? We don't have enough talents and competences, and particularly for you who are really committed to enabling women, to empowering women actually in your structure to take leading managing role, you have stumbled, have a problem, which is, how can I recruit talents when there are none of them in the pipeline? Ashwak, coming back to you again. Publicis Sapient Solutions touch millions of users. How do you approach the challenge of biases? You actually mentioned that you had to manage the machine and make sure that they were not repeating biases and etc. But basically, how do you approach this more specifically in the AI-driven platforms that you are currently developing?
Well, algorithm itself cannot be biased. We need to correct this fact. The data that feeding the models and the model builder themselves might be biased.
Exactly.
So when we are addressing those kind of challenges, we need to put in our consideration that those kind of data can come from a lot of sources and resources around us. So we need to be proactive, not reactive. We need to identify the potential use case of bias ahead before even happening it, and tackle it and prevent it from happening again. In Publicis Sapiens, how we usually do it, first, data quality is a key. We usually look after the right data and the right resources that feeding the model, because good models comes from a good feeded data. Secondly, diversity team. So one basically of the best solution to reduce the bias challenge is having a diversity developer team with the different backgrounds. They're helping basically to identify issues and challenges and potential, I would say, spots and gaps ahead in a way that other basically developers would never pay attention to it because they have their own perception. Finally, and last, again, applying the right ethical for diversity and conclusion. All developers should be on top, on ahead of the policy, activated, audited, all the process, all the way until the outcomes, and then manage the outcomes from their end.
Okay, thank you for those insights regarding how you manage that issue. Alban, I will now be turning to you and ask you how can, from your viewpoint, AI promote unity by embracing diverse perspectives? Well, basically, how do you manage this in your consulting business at KPMG?
Well, unity without uniformity. Yes, AI is a true enabler. That's for sure. It allows us to improve the quality of our service, drive operational excellence to our client. Yes, technology helps identify errors and especially provide high quality audit key for our businesses. But human expertise is key to provide clients with solutions to eliminate those errors. Yes, technology are excellent, are identifying specific information, producing relevant content, and even supporting strategic decision-making. But only human can understand the full complexity of companies' challenges. So at KPMG, we are building unity with an entire workforce for AI that is more, thanks to AI, more efficient, responsive, fast, to address our client needs without falling into university. The objective is to get the best out of technology while preserving our deep expertises, plus the creativity and critical thinking of our people, especially when we are number one of audit, quality audit advisors, as you just mentioned as an introduction. So we've got a human-centric AI framework that aims at supporting diversity and humanity. We're looking to create systems that amplify and augment human capabilities in all their diversity instead of replacing them.
Yeah, okay. So basically, you with Ashwak share the same sort of analysis. I mean, you basically have to make sure at each step that, you know, the way you're going to manage data, the way you're going to secure the fact that they don't include biases, the way they're going to be managed by the team, the way they are an enabler for team to perform better and secure more time to allocate quality time with your customers. These are the things you're trying to achieve with AI. And we hope we will all succeed. So, John, we've just talked about, you know, how to ensure that AI champions diversity. Could you tell us why it's so important in your opinion and what you're doing in this regard?
Sure. As I said, the growth is exponential, and unfortunately, I think it's half of the data center engineering staff needed to operate the facilities will be at retirement age by the end of 2025. There's then a 15% growth in the number of data center technicians required by the end of 2025. So there's a clear gap. And, you know, some of the initiatives we're doing, and unfortunately, you know, there isn't a path into data center engineering. There isn't a path into engineering full stop. You know, I know it's changing, and Sasha, you and I were discussing this earlier. It's not changing quickly enough. You know, I need candidates. I need female candidates. I need diverse candidates. We have roles. We launched Stack Academy successfully in Italy. That will roll out. We have 7% of my workforce this year comes from apprentices, and that will double into next year, and we'll continue to grow that. That's critically important. We need to educate the educators. That's the issue. If I'm looking for candidates coming out of higher education, it's too late. And so it's getting into the school system, getting into education programs, getting outreach to female candidates, candidates from diverse backgrounds, and saying there is opportunity here, and we'll facilitate that. We were really proud this year. We launched our Stack Scholarship program in the UK, and this is targeting female students wanting to study STEM topics at university, but not having the means to do that. So we're sponsoring them through that. We're paying tuition, we're paying accommodation expenses, we're mentoring them through that, and we'll have 12 females in that program by the end of this year. We'll be committed to that and driving that through. In Schaffhausen in Zurich, we partner with the GoTech lab there. We have kids as young as 8 coming in to get into data centers. They can come in with their parents, they can understand the technologies, and that's what we have to do. And it won't solve this by tomorrow. This is a long-term, sustainable approach to plugging the skills gap.
Well, if you're involving kids of 8 years old, it's a really long-term approach, right?
I have a 9-year-old daughter. I have no choice. So.
I understand. But then you're talking about younger one, but what happens for elder ones? Basically, are there programs in engineering universities about infrastructure? Is it something which is developed, or is there another reason for the pipeline issue that you're mentioning on that?
Increasingly there are, but still it's about having the ability to go into that through education. You know? And also a lot of engineers aren't necessarily academic. The people we have in data center technician roles, they're practical. They don't want to learn from a textbook. They want to show and do with their hands and learn practically. So there are programs there. I would strongly urge anybody with an interest in that, please come to us, reach out to the data center operators, to the hyperscale clients that we have around that. There are opportunities there. We do a poor job, I think, collectively of articulating that and educating communities on the opportunities that are there. So that's something that's incumbent on all of us to improve. It is happening. I think there's like-minded people coming together on these things. We just need to keep driving this. Because the skills gap issue is real.
Thank you. So now we're getting to the end of the debate, and we're touching on one of the topics that actually Salma mentioned in the introduction, and it's very important. We all see, based on your testimonial, that there are basically great opportunities with AI. Obviously, there are dangers, but there are great opportunities. Yet, from this whole perspective, they, basically from viewpoints, Sasha, who are very knowledgeable expert about public policies, issues, and etc. What is your global picture in the end, about how can AI advance DEI, and how DEI can really advance AI? And you'll be the concluding person.
So I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm going to give you a different perspective, which is we've heard a little bit about all of the challenges related to AI adoption and promoting diversity and gender equality. I would like to share with you all just a couple of examples of how AI is actually helping DEI. So first of all, access to finance. There are more than 1 billion people worldwide that don't have access to finance because they don't have national IDs. The majority of those people are women. There are nonprofits like Kiva that are using AI to help women authenticate their identity so that they can access banking, which is one of the key starting points for economic freedom. Another example, health. In Rwanda, for example, there is one oncologist per 3,200 active breast cancer patients. There are 15 oncologists in the entire country. And so AI is actually being used to help oncologists provide personalized medicine to women who oftentimes, first of all, aren't in the capital, are very far away, and would have to wait months regardless to be able to talk to a doctor about symptoms that they're having. We've talked a lot about questions of bias. So in the same ways that AI, and I loved your articulation, because at the end of the day, it is people that are building these training data sets. In the same way that AI can perpetuate bias, AI can actually be used to detect bias. So For example, one of the customers that we work with is using AI to measure how much time on stage men and women speak today. On this stage, women are the majority. But to rectify that and make sure that they can translate insights into actions. That is also being used to scan job descriptions, because regardless, oftentimes in job descriptions, because as human beings we all have inherent bias, we are writing job descriptions in language that discourages certain groups to apply. And so AI is being used, for example, to scan those job descriptions for words that would dissuade certain groups to apply and ensure that there's more diversity there. I'd also like to flag that there are great opportunities, that's the thing that I find the most exciting, to use AI to actually address challenges related to AI. So at AWS, we developed a tool called SageMaker Clarify, which actually uses AI to scan AI systems to automatically detect and identify and remove bias. So that's the part in terms of how AI can help DEI. Very quickly, in terms of how DEI can help AI, there are lots of studies that show that organizations that have more diversity have more returns on investment in terms of innovation. And just to pull out the stat for you, diversity really drives innovation to the extent that companies with above average diversity produced 45% of revenues related to innovation, compared to just 26% for below average diversity in companies. There's also work that shows that when more than one woman is on a board, the return on investments is great. And again, I loved what many of you said, because it's also about creativity, and Stacey evoked it as well. It's about being able to think creatively and be able to think across different disciplines. And that goes for gender equality, but more broadly for the importance of diversity. And I would just close by saying that the kind of mission statement that we should all be led by is that we need a tech sector as diverse as the societies we aspire to create, and we need a tech sector as diverse as the societies that we hope to help with these tech tools. And we need to move from an approach that's more about bolted on to built in, but ultimately to by design. And that's where we need to move as a tech sector, but also as a community more broadly, is diversity by design in the teams that are building these AI systems, but also in the AI systems themselves.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sasha, for this last speaking or interaction of the panel. To conclude, again, I'll come back to the Asma introduction. Asma mentioned the fact that, big opportunities, I think we've shared, we have shared with you those views, but there are really challenges regarding, how the public policy will make this happen, how the public policy will enable us human beings all together to take advantage of all these promises. And that's where organizations such as the one you work with, Sasha, G7 or G20 are so important, because they're going to pave the way so that we can have the right regulations and the right approach to these technologies. Last week, there was recommendations from the G7 on these issues, to which, among others, you have contributed, highlighting the importance of what we're fighting for, basically AI by design being, enabling diversity. We actually, on our side, because I'm working with the G20, and we have a policy report which has been published last week and which will be shared at the G20 in November, is actually on the same wavelength, and that's I think absolutely necessary to enable us all together to make it work. Thanks a lot for your attention. I think you have now a coffee break, and thanks.